So hi, we're the Superwoman Entrepreneurs. Today, our global mastermind is officially live. So please go have a look on our website as well as our social media pages. It is everywhere. We'll also put the link at the bottom of this live so you can go have a look. We are absolutely live and we'd love you to give some feedback, to come have a look at what we do. And yeah, we'd love to meet you. So please do feel free to just get in touch with us, join our community, Superwoman Entrepreneurs Global Mastermind, and our Facebook page and Instagram. Today we are chatting with Sylvia. She is truly the mastermind behind kind of any type of entrepreneurship starting. So Sylvia, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about that?
Wonderful. Yeah. So, hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sylvia Ma, and I have been an entrepreneur and an investor. So, right now, I do mostly investing in female led business and BIPOC founders. And as an entrepreneur, since we are focusing on that, but we also can talk about investor, what investors see in entrepreneurs. Obviously, my dogs have to bark right when my whole house is being renovated. So, I'm outside. And thank God it's San Diego. And so, as an entrepreneur, I run my own consulting firm. It's called She Invests, which also has a podcast. I'm edit the final edits of my book on servant leadership and doing coursework also on empowering female possible investors, so aspiring angel investors, to consider investing either through crowdfunding, which is, you can start as easy as $100, all the way to angel investing and all the way to VC. We're also raising a fund right now, starting in January. So in that, as an entrepreneur, it's about the grind. It's an ugly truth of the highs and the lows. So even as an investor, I have my entrepreneurial pursuit. So a lot of people don't know that. And I'm like, yes, I do. I feel the pain. I've tried to start about 3 or 4 different types of companies that were more in the medical device space while I was getting my MBA. So I've been there, done that. We can talk about that today. But then I also can take the view of, as an investor, what do I look for, in companies. And definitely the jockey instead of the horse. So we can talk about that, is really the founder. And then also the product market fit, or the founder market fit. So they're not or, it's and. So the product market fit is, do you understand it? Have you had some great surveys? Have you put the product out there? Do you have some feedback? And then the founder market fit is, do you really understand your market as a founder and really understand how that customer is going to buy from you? All of those 3 pieces, the jockey, the product market fit, and the founder market fit, are really, in general, those are the 3 main things that I, as an investor, start asking. So that's me in a nutshell. I also run a business accelerator for female entrepreneurs as well. So I've seen thousands of different entrepreneurial pursuits. So any question that you have, let me know and we can walk through that.
Suzanne, thank you for joining us as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you and like the ugly truth about your entrepreneurship journey?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Scarrow and I'm a psychologist in Far North Queensland in Australia. And if I had gone to Sylvia and asked for funding, she would have laughed me out of the room, because I had none of that in place when I started. All I had in place was a tool that I knew could help people and a belief that I could make it work for people. And so 20 years later, I'm still here, but boy, did I need your advice back then, because there was some ugliness along the way and lots of failure. But I figure that really failure doesn't really get you down unless you let it. And success is just going from failure to failure with that enthusiasm to keep going. So that's kind of how I've done it, and I wouldn't advise others to do it that way. I'd actually go and seek some advice from Sylvia these days and get things in place, and I'd seek some advice from Daphne and figure out how to market, because marketing is not my forte at all. Helping people break through emotional blocks, that I can do. Marketing myself and talking about myself out there, not so much. So I love the fact that in this group and in this mastermind that we're putting together, there are all of these skills coming together. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
That's awesome.
and we need to hear from you, Daphne. You always go and like introduce everybody. So introduce yourself in the aspect of entrepreneurship. I know you've gone through a couple of different entrepreneurial journeys. You're going through a couple right now as a startup founder in a tech company, and would love to see like what is your journey, and introduce yourself as that like entrepreneur in the ugliness and the wonderfulness of the journey.
Oh man, that is actually been such a whirlwind. So yes, I have been an entrepreneur basically all my life. I got fired from my first job, and that was actually the biggest blessing that I've ever received. Then I went on 50. I promise you 50 interviews and could not get a job. I was every time in the final and just no one would give me the chance. So I was like, screw it, I can do this too. And that's where my entrepreneurial journey started. I had a laptop and I had a vision and basically just the drive. We are broadcasting this live on Clubhouse as well, so just that everyone know, we are live on Clubhouse too if you want to join and listening there. But anyway, so that's kind of where I started. We started with a digital marketing agency, which grew phenomenally well. In South Africa, it was a lovely 6-figure business. That was just amazing. It was on autopilot. The team knew what they were doing. It was just brilliant. And actually, my biggest challenge came after that when COVID hit. So we moved to Japan during that time. We got stuck in Japan for about a year. And 30 days after COVID hit South Africa and the borders closed, I lost each and every client that we had. Every single client in 30 days. Now, as an entrepreneur, you know that there's ups and you know that there's downs. But you never foresee that you lose everything in like 30 days. That doesn't really compete. It's all of our entrepreneurs have got this mindset that no, it's fine. Something will always come up. It will come up. Like it will happen. The phone will ring. It just does. That's what our drive is. And it didn't. For like literally 6 months, it didn't. It was a set of a period where a lot of fetal positions in the bathroom. There was a lot of drowning, but I think every single entrepreneur has gone through a similar situation in their own context and in their own industry. But that's kind of what it means to be an entrepreneur, to have a vision. As long as you always get up, you get there. There's so many other people that can do what you do. That is true. It's a fact. But there is no one that can do it the way that you do. Absolutely no one. And that's what your unique experience is. And that's what you bring to the table. Your experiences, the journey that you've walked. So that's what makes you who you are. So the next step from there is we rebuilt our digital marketing agency in Japan. We went to Houston and it really got built over. And what I want to encourage all of our entrepreneurs for is if you've done it once, you can do it again. And we were able to do what we've done previously in 4 years. We were able to do it in 6 months, which is like, wow, I didn't realize how much you've learned until you had to do it again, which is also fabulous and scary and still like, whoa. Every level that you get into is a different mindset. Every situation that you get into is a different learning experience. And you have to keep that going, and you have to know that that is the way that life goes. You follow the favor, follow where the opportunities are. It's so much easier to follow where you see the gap and to serve other people in that environment than to try and bring them up to what you want them to do. So that's one of the learnings. And from there onwards, we have then established a different part of the business as well within consultancy, which is purely focused on business consultancy in order to gain the market exposure and focusing on marketing specifically. And now, as Sylvia alluded, we are in the process of establishing our very first tech company. So I am now officially also a tech founder of a company, of a gaming company, nevertheless. But we can talk about that a whole lot of other time because this is a whole new journey for me as well. And again, it's new skills that I have to learn, but the entrepreneurial journey still continues. And Sylvia, I actually would love for you to talk a bit more about the servant leadership, because that is something that I'm also learning right now in the position that I am in, moving to Canada. There's a lot of serving that we need to do here. And for an entrepreneur, I know this might be going into a little bit of a self-internal thing. So Suzanne, I also want your input on this. But when you move into a new area or a new market, for example, that you are not the king of, that you are not the head of, you come in as a servant and need to be accepted as a servant. But that sometimes goes against all of our entrepreneurial instincts and goes against of you showing up as I am fabulous, I am amazing, where you have to show up as a servant. And you have to show up in that situation where currently you are serving someone else's vision. You're learning that. That's the path that you are walking in order to get to where you need to be. But it is also only for a season. And that's kind of where we are right now. And I'd love both of your input in that.
Yeah, I was just pulling up my data. So what the book that I'm writing is about servant leadership. It's the power of purpose in the startup world, actually, because I get asked a ton about this topic because I'm always preaching about it. I said, do unto others what you want to be like to be done to you. Serve before self. All of that is very anti. As an entrepreneur, we're said, revenue, build. Who cares who's in your way? You're going to go through. And return on investment is always talked about between an entrepreneur and an investor. So as an investor, I actually do not talk about return on investment. On investment, I talk about return on impact, right? Because if you have an impactful company, you will undoubtedly have higher revenue, right? Again, that is very servant leadership, impact investing world. I'm trying to make it more mainstream. So I wrote this book, and I have a framework of what does a servant leader look like in the startup world. And what I did was I conducted a survey. 100 people responded to it. And actually, I've never even talked about the data, and the book is going to be out in January. So this is the first time I've talked about it. I'm looking at the actual data right now. Interestingly enough, I love how you said, when you entering a new ecosystem, you can't necessarily serve others instead of yourself because you're trying to build your business. It's very egocentric because you have to build based on yourself. But what's interesting is that I have 4 core pillars of servant leadership that I built. So one is others before self, lift as you lead, having an abundance mindset, and having a higher purpose, right? Those 4 are really kind of the core of servant leadership with the lens of the startup world. The 2 that are the highest level for the ecosystem that I sent this data set and these questions out are lift as you lead and having an abundance mindset, right? The others before self is as a lower. It's about 50% of the 100 respondents said that would be something that they are most aligned to. So again, going back to that lift as you lead and having an abundance mindset, the hypothesis is that you have to have an abundance mindset as an entrepreneur because you have to ask for money. You have to ask for, hey, can you fund me? You have to have this bigger than life perspective of what your opportunity is in the marketplace. You have to have a larger than life expectation of how you're going to capture that market. So having that abundance mindset is integral to you actually going out to get funding, to actually talk about your startup, and it's not egocentric. And if you have this abundance mindset, it's easier for you to get investment, right? Because they want you to be bigger than life. They want you to feel like you're abundantly going after this market, and you will get that return on investment. So that was kind of like an interesting hypothesis that I had. And then the second one is lift as you lead, is that you really have to build a team. You have to lift the boats that you're working with. Sometimes you do have to serve others and they serve you because it's you're working not for money but for sweat equity, right? So there's a little bit of that you have to, as an entrepreneur, lift as you lead. You're leading, but you're lifting. You have to depend on other entrepreneurs to be able to kind of go through the the journey, right? We always said that, as this one said, entrepreneurship, the ugly, but to get through that, you have to, depend on other people. So that's the first time that I've actually even talked about this data, but that's interesting that we find that, because the other ones, like having a higher purpose, is about 67% of the respondents said having a higher purpose, but the lift as you lead was 81, and having an abundance mindset or growth mindset is 78% of the respondents. And these respondents are entrepreneurs and investors. So very interesting, right? So that's kind of what I do. And what I talk about in the book, and really taking on that servant leadership and the team that you're developing, making sure that, you're serving your team. You're actually serving the investors that you're working on, because you're growing together the startup venture. And then obviously you're serving the innovation ecosystem, because as you learning, like Daphne, you said, like I've learned, and now it takes me a short amount of time to do what I need to do. Well, you're the marketer. You can partner with a technology specialist and build a company together. Isn't that great? So that needs to be part of that ethos and the DNA of any entrepreneur to be able to be successful in an ecosystem, right? Because we all need the ecosystem to thrive, so that we have more investor entrepreneurial connections, and the whole ecosystem thrives, and then I thrive with it as an entrepreneur. So hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of sense of like the method of my madness of the servant leadership piece.
So I come from a bit of a different angle than that, I think, as a solopreneur. So I can't really even explain why, but I want to do what I do pretty much on my own with a small team. And it's always been like that. I think it's because I've come from working one-on-one with clients just as a psychologist, counseling psychologist for so many years. And now I'm actually going into that area of online workshops, so that I can still serve those people and not have to be face to face, basically, so that I can hop in my caravan and travel around the country. So it has meant for me that I'm now in this promoting myself to people who've never heard of me situation, whereas before it's always been word of mouth, go see her because she can help you with this kind of thing. Now it's people who've never heard of me. So I am finding that I'm having to serve more in terms of giving lots of value to people, so that they know what I'm talking about, so that they get to know, like, and trust me. So I guess it's serving in a bit of a different way in that social media area. But I love what you were saying, Sylvia, about that abundance mindset, because if you don't have that abundance mindset, you might as well just pack up now, I reckon. It's really, you've got to have that belief that there is abundance and you can do it. It's there for you. Everybody is capable of it. Everybody, like you were saying, Daphne, everybody has got their own superpowers and ability to serve. Okay, there might be 100 people doing what you're doing, but you are the only one doing it the way you do it. And that's the value in what you're doing. Yeah. So I do think, it's a journey. It's just a continuing journey. Like, I'm coming up for 68 years old. It's time I retired, but I'm actually on this new journey of doing this new thing so that I can retire. So, I don't think you ever stop. It's always a learning process as you go. Yeah.
But I love what you were saying, because it's like we're talking the same language, and we're just saying it in our own different ways. But the essence of an entrepreneur for me is always to serve. Technically, we have the ability to go into an environment and see where the need is, where normal other people don't. Entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs see the gap in whatever they are, and majority of the time is they are there to serve that need. We create a product, we create a service, we create something in order to serve that need for our fellow human beings. And during that, yes, we gain freedom, and we gain financial freedom, or whatever it is that you want to do, whatever your goal is. But the essence is we go out to see where the need is, we create the opportunity for it, and that's how we also serve the different environments that we are in. But again, now majority of the time, as the ugly truth is, we are the biggest bottleneck in our own success. We are usually the person that stands in the gap of the doors being opened. We don't know why, but we are. And it usually does take someone else to see that and to help you with that. So the essence of entrepreneurship is also to be in a community, like Sylvia was saying. You have to learn from other people that's already been there. You have to be in a situation where you learn from others. No man is an island, even an solo entrepreneur. You are not alone in this thing. You might be building your business without a partner, but you still need support to bounce off ideas, to figure out how to market, to see the blind spots that you don't see. And what happens a lot with, and this is not just solo entrepreneurs, these are all entrepreneurs, is we get ourselves in a situation where this business that we are creating becomes our everything, that we don't have time for anything else anymore. We don't actually make sure that our needs are met as well. And the essence of an entrepreneur is there to be able to have work-life balance, but that means that you are able to grow your personal, your spiritual, your business, your financial, your physical needs all simultaneously. Because if one aspect is grown more than the other or lacks, that's where imbalance steps in. So Sylvia, what do you think about that? What is the ugly truth in these type of things for any entrepreneur?
All of them. As an entrepreneur, you don't have an on off, but it has to be very self mitigated, and you have to keep yourself selfly accountable. I know, Suzanne, you can help me with this when you come on, but it's a lot of self-discipline, and a lot of entrepreneurs are not self-disciplined. They're ADHD. That's why we love them so much, right? I'm a little bit ADHD too, is that I like the shiny bright object, and I go after things. So and then I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't get all the operations and all the automation done and stuff like that. That's when we need operators, right? So I think that this ugly truth of this work-life balance, I always say that it's an integration instead of balance for me, right? Because I'm truly never balanced. I feel like right now I'm sitting outside of my house because it's in disaster area inside, and I could kind of freak out, right? And say, oh my gosh, I need to be balanced. I need to have this Zen moment. I'm like, I'm not Zened out. I'm good, right? I'm integrating everything. I'm outside. I'm doing my stuff. It's not ideal. So what, right? That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. So the ugly part is oh shoot, I have to get this to work because I need to make this wonderful partnership that we're having with super women entrepreneurs and our mastermind group work. This is what we would love to have and grow it and have wonderful entrepreneurs that are coming through our authentic, mastermind group that will help you grow your business, right, in a very authentically you way, right? But to do that, we have to get on these Zoom calls, right? Not Zoom calls, but we need to get on these calls and be available and be authentic ourselves. So then, when you're thinking about it, you're like, well, if I'm balanced, I'm really not balanced because I have to be here. My dogs are barking. My house is a disaster, whatever. I'm integrating it all. I'm outside. I'm doing a good thing, right? So I think that's a hardness. Of course, now 3 dogs are barking. Sorry about that. So I think that's kind of where I stand. It is ugly. It is kind of, a little bit nuts. But again, if I was working for corporate, I couldn't even be here. I would have been freaking out because I had a boss that's going to fire me. And I was basically fired from my job during COVID because I didn't execute. I'm like, how can you not execute during COVID? And you're trying to figure out all this out. But it was just so horrible to go through that. I would much rather be an entrepreneur. So
that is the beauty, isn't it, of you've got the choice. You can be at home outside with the dogs barking, with the renovation happening all around you, and still be smiling, still know that you're in charge of your destiny, kind of thing. That is really what it's about for me. If I had a job, well, I'm not very good at being in a job because I guess it's because when I was in a job, I was doing admin work. I wasn't following my passion. And I didn't really find that passion for a while, although I knew what that passion was when I was 7 years old. And somebody said to me way back then when I was 7, oh, no, you don't want to be a psychoanalyst or a psychologist or anything like that because people will think you're psychoanalyzing them. you know, as a 7-year-old, I didn't have a clue what that meant, but it didn't sound very good. So I put that dream away for the next 30 something years. So, you know, don't do that. Don't put your dream away. Get out and do what makes your heart smile, because when you do that, you will find the way to do, you know, if a business was going to fail, it should have been my business, because I didn't have all the skills. I didn't have all the marketing. I didn't have the investors. I didn't have all the stuff that you would normally think. All I had was me and a belief in me and a belief in the process that I use. And here I am still all these years later. So I really encourage people to follow that dream. The other thing that you were saying, Daphne, about the kind of getting in our own way and being I think you called it the bottleneck, that's very true. And what I notice with people mostly is that it's because they've got a faulty belief about themselves. And that faulty belief will often come, as mine did, as a very small child. Because as a very small child, 0 to 7, you're in a theta brainwave pattern. You look at something that's going on around you and you take it on board that it's your fault. And my interpretation of my little event wasn't a very dramatic event, but I took on board that I was not good enough. And I carried that belief for 55 years. So as a person who believes you're not good enough, you're going to attract more evidence of that. And now it's going to be seem really true, but it was never true in the first place. So if you've got a faulty belief like that, I really want people to know that you can be free of it. It was never true. It isn't true now. It wasn't true then, and it's certainly not true in the future. And you can be clear of it. So, you know, I think what people do is get into that bottleneck because they don't have that belief in themselves, and then they get stuck. So, yeah, I love clearing those limiting beliefs so that people can break through. It really does make a difference.
So let's look at what is the typical day of an entrepreneur actually look like? What are the ugly things that we have to deal with as entrepreneurs every single day? So in my instance, I usually wake up. My team is 9 hours ahead of me. So when I wake up, they already like going down. They already at the end of their day. So for me, that's always a rush to get up because I always feel like I'm behind. So sitting up, going through my team, what was the findings of today? Did we do everything, the normal check-ins? And then usually after that, it is seeking new business. How do we get new business? What is the activities that I have to do in order to move the needle? In my instance, do I go on Facebook? Do I go on this? How is my SEO doing? What is my email marketing doing? Are my funnels set up correctly? What are responses on all the funnels that I'm getting? What are the other traffic sources that I need to look at? So for me is then getting new business. The next step is then usually client meetings. How do we keep our current clientele happy? We all have that one client that is the person that usually pays you the least. That is then also the person that usually wants the most out of everything. And then the person that usually treats you the worst as well. That's usually that person. I don't know.
Amen, and amen. Just putting it out there.
That's the guy. And then majority of the time you have one or two. No, I lie. 80% of your business is usually then of those phenomenal clients that also brings in 80% of the revenue. And majority of the time, that one client is also the client that has got the least amount of profit if you are even making profit on that client. That's kind of usually, so then it is dealing with that. I recently had to make very difficult decisions to tell those clients, I love you, but no anymore. I lie. I don't love you anymore. Please leave. And those are very difficult decisions to make because now you have that mindset of, I really do need this cash. For any entrepreneur, how is it going to influence my team? How is it going to influence my cash flow on this basis? Can I really do that? If I do that, how much time am I opening up for a new client, a client that I actually want to get into this? How much time am I opening up for something that I could probably rather do? Then it's dealing with staff issues. We each and every one have got some staff issues that is popping up here and there. No matter what amazing team you have, there's always something that does come up in that sense as well. And then I always try and add in a little bit of personal development too. I value my own growth. If I don't spend time in developing me as a person, my mindset, my growth, my skill, I become a one-trick pony, and that gets old very, very quickly, especially in this industry and this environment that we usually live in. So that kind of me is the ugly truth. Sometimes it goes phenomenal. Sometimes I actually have time to do all these things. And other times it just doesn't happen. Like today, I have not been able to do my walk. Don't know why. It's like when you get looked at the time and everything is gone. Sometimes, yeah, you lose clients. Sometimes you gain phenomenal ones in. Sometimes it goes up and down, but that is the journey of an entrepreneur. And whatever anyone says, an overnight success does not take overnight. It usually is a consistent pursuit of whatever you're doing in order to get that result over a period of normally 7 years. That's normally an overnight success. So that's my version of the ugly truth. Sylvia, what is your version?
Yeah, if you're asking me about the good thing about entrepreneurship is that every single day is different. So if you do not like monotony, entrepreneurship is your thing, your jam, right? Because you really can create whatever you want to create in what you think your entrepreneurship journey should look like. For you, it's like, clients and getting projects out, getting the marketing out and all that. You thrive and are so excited about building that out. And then there's, other times that you have to do the financials of your business, and some people don't like to do that. So there's that's the ugly piece of it. For me, on a consistent day, I'm just looking at my calendar. It's like it's crazy, right? Because we have I probably do sourcing for about 4 or 5 VC entities in a given week. So that means that I am meeting with entrepreneurs through, let's say, Calendly. I share my Calendly with people. We get on a call, we talk about their pitch deck, or we talk about the process of all of these VCs. So I'm going from seed stage all the way to Series A. And I'm saying 4 to 5 entities because it's like at Astra Ventures, where I have 2 other partners and I'm an investor as well. Then we have Stella Angels. Then we have Crescent Ridge Partners that does more seed Series A. And then I have another venture arm called Shepherd Ventures, and they're more Series A. And then we have Founders of Color Showcase. And then, of course, my own investment, She Invests. So with all of those entities, then there's always an entrepreneur to talk to. Almost every single day I have, right now I have about 15 over the course of the week. And then I usually speak, 1 or 2 times a week, actually. So tomorrow I have Start Out summit. So that's for LGBTQ entrepreneurs. The summit's happening tomorrow. So I'm on a panel with other VCs, like Google Ventures will be there with a panelist with me. One of my other colleagues that is in Portfolio as another fund, and myself, we're all talking about creating new funds for underrepresented founders and underrepresented markets. So that's a typical week that I'm talking about one of those topics. And then, of course, then I have to meet with my team. So we have about 6 people on the Stella Angel, Stella Lab side. At Astra Partners, we have 3 partners with a fund manager and an operations person. We're hiring for three sort of positions, some that are not sort of, but 3 positions that some of them are like only like 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, all the way to like part-time 20 hours a week. So I'm going through their applications and all of that. So that's like this week, right? And every single day I can just look at my calendar. It's all over the place, right? But definitely getting goals done and making sure that we are hitting sales goals and marketing goals and financial goals and growth goals, right? How do we scale? We do have a whole strategic plan for the year, and we're hitting those goals every single week. Of course, they're like the micro, pieces to get to that bigger goal, but we actually try to do that every single week. And then I know that some of my staff and some of the people that I work with really need to sit down with me. They need an hour of my time, or I need an hour of their time to get stuff done. And I think knowing how people work and how you work with others in the entrepreneurial landscape really helps you, right? Make the best use of your time, because it's really your own time. So the more that you can kind of, the ugly is you have all the time in the world. The other ugly is you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. So you have to keep yourself accountable. You have to keep, the other part of it is that you have to get things done to grow your business. And then knowing kind of the good part of it is There's people that support you, either your team or your ecosystem or your mentors or mentees. Sometimes even a mentee of mine allows me to hold myself accountable. Like, oh, I need to introduce you to this person. So all of those things are the things that I see on a daily and weekly basis that allow me to have the freedom of being an entrepreneur. But the ugly is, shoot, by Friday, sometimes like like you said, Daphne, like today you're like, and what did I do? Like today I feel the same way. I had a meeting with Daphne for 2 hours today, and we didn't do it because I was at my office, and the 3 other like VC scouts of Ad Astra Ventures were all getting together to discuss some of the ladies that are going to be looked at for our fund, and we have our boot camp applications due on Friday. So there's like deadlines and pieces that are like, oh, you're not going to stay for this meeting. I'm like, I was not invited to the meeting, but like, yes, this is definitely a priority. So, you know, I texted Daphne. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Let's reschedule. Well, first of all, I was like, let's push it out. And then Daphne's like, let's just reschedule. And that grace that Daphne gave me, I was able to have lunch. Like, seriously, I'm booked until 8 o'clock tonight. Right. So thank you, Daphne, for the grace. But I think that's kind of the good and the bad of entrepreneurship, is that people do give you grace, which is beautiful and awesome. But then now you have to get that same stuff done. So I'm probably going to be doing my to-do list starting at 8 o'clock tonight. And then I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning to finish the rest of my to-dos. That is my day today.
I'm exhausted just listening.
And then I need a therapist I need a therapy session with Suzanne one day.
One day. Oh my goodness. Well, for me, it's much, much simpler. I don't do anything until I get myself into a high vibration, because I know that if I'm not in a high vibration, if I'm not in alignment with my higher self, however you want to say that, I don't want to swear on here, but, you know, I would normally swear at this point. So getting into that high vibration just by spending time in gratitude and appreciation is my number one every day. If I don't even lift my head off the pillow until I've done that. And then I try to go for a walk by the beautiful coral sea every day as well. But it's getting a bit hot to do that right now, so I didn't go this morning, obviously. But just, you know, getting some movement in there as well. Just like you said, Daphne, taking care of me. Honey, I don't put it down the list. I put it way up the list. It's number one for me, and I make sure that I do that. And I actually always, yes, almost always give myself time for a break at lunchtime. It's not necessarily to sit down and eat lunch, but it might be just to chill, do nothing, so that I've got that break of the day. And normally, like today, I'll have this meeting, and then I'll have 2 clients, and then I'll have that break, and then I'll have 2 more clients, and then I'll do some work on I'm building an app, ladies. I'm building an app I know, it's so exciting. And I'm just in the beta stage of testing it right now with a group of people. So I've got to do some work on that every day and make sure that I'm moving it forward, and that it's going to be as successful as I want it to be. So same thing with you, Daphne, checking the funnels, making sure the funnels are working, but working on that app is my number one priority at the moment. So, but I do put myself at the top of the list, I've got to say, and I take really, it's number one for me. If I don't get myself into that high vibration, then I know the day's not going to work out so good. So that has to be my number one. And then what happens actually when I do that is, it's not that I don't take action on things, it's that I take action, but it's inspired action because I've been in that high vibration. So things do tend to work with ease and grace, I've got to say.
And that's why I love this mastermind, is that we are all very different, but we're united in our values of giving to others and giving to entrepreneurs. So this mastermind is so deep and wide. I feel very different than other masterminds, because we have the Suzannes of the world that need to be like, okay, I'm going to get in my best vibration. I'm like, go, 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 vibration all the time. You know, I don't stop. I don't eat. Thank you, Daphne, for giving me an hour to eat today, because I wouldn't have eaten otherwise. And that, so I love that all of us are so different, and I need to learn from you, Suzanne. And I think whoever is going to be joining us in their mastermind is going to learn so much from all of us. I just think that that's the really neat, value prop that we're bringing to the world. So I just had to add that because I'm like, okay, I need to listen to Suzanne, but she's so awesome. And I need to be in my vibration zone. I'm like, when am I not in my vibration zone? Never. Right. Because I love what I do and I go from the beginning to end. But I do, when I wake up in the morning, I'm a faith-based investor and entrepreneur. So before I lift my head off of the pillow, I do my gratitude. And then I have all of my prayer requests on index cards. So I have them right there where my Bible is. And sometimes I don't have enough time. Like I have to get out of the bed. My daughters, I just kind of hold them in my hands, and I know that's all labeled. So everybody is labeled here. God, please, keep them safe, and I'm praying over them. And sometimes I can go line by line by line. And so that's an easy way for me to just kind of grab it, pray, got done, out the door. So efficiency. But see, Suzanne's like, no, we need to like walk and pause. I have to listen to that. So I'm going to get all zenned out today.
That's funny. I agree with 100% what you're saying. And I love this mastermind also because of this differentness. Yet we all face very similar challenges. In whichever context it is, we all face something similar. We've always all gone through something that we can learn from each other of. We can feed off each other. And that's what Mastermind is all about. We are there to give back. We are there to share our journeys. And we are there to also celebrate all the wins. Like Suzanne, an app at what age?
Nearly 68.
That is something to be celebrated. Congratulations. That is absolutely phenomenal. So everyone that wants to join this absolutely incredible, forward-moving, forward-thinking mastermind, this is the time to do that. Please join us on our Facebook group, Superwomen Entrepreneurs, on our Instagram, on our website, and of course, please do send us some messages, comment below. We'd love to take some time to meet each and every one of you and invite you into our environment and our community. Now, before we close off today, I'd like to chat about the finances, because that's kind of usually the biggest ugly part of an entrepreneur. I believe there is a myth that people always believe that they have to invest back into the business, which is true. Yes, you do need to have funds in order to gain forward. However, you also need to be able to live off of that and get reward based. If you don't have a reward that is linked to this journey and to this empire that you're building, as normal human nature, you will lose steam at some point. So how do you structure your finances so that you actually take some of the profit or some of the revenue, your owner's compensation, in order to celebrate as well? I don't see that needs to be every day, because that's stupid. But there has to be a sort of system that you have, that there is money going into your account that is still allocated to all the places that you need to be, and have left over for you to actually enjoy this as well. I am a 100% believer in that if there's no reward-based business, or there's no reward into this, even if it is delayed reward, that's fine, but there needs to be something that you look forward to. There is no way that you will keep this going, because majority of all entrepreneurs of us, we go like, we've got this thing called willpower, and we got this, and we can do this every single day, all day long, 24/7. Yeah, that's true. But you're also human, and no man is an island. And you also want to have the things that you love. If it is a dinner, if it is a Disney World holiday, whatever it is, what is your why? And if that is not linked to your financial goals, it's never going to happen. So, Sylvia, what do you think?
That's always a very important one, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I mentor sometimes say, "Oh, I'm going to do this like coaching program, and that's all I need to make a living." And when you really kind of plan it out, really line by line, product by product, or service by service, it sometimes does not work out. And especially if you want to have a lifestyle that you want to have, right? So it's funny, it has happened so much. It's like, oh, well, I want to do all this stuff. Well, when you operationalize and you say, okay, how many clients can you have per month? Oh, 5. Okay. Well, then what's the overlap? What's this? What's that? It doesn't maybe turn out as well. And then they're like, oh, we've always dreamed about having a retreat. I'm like, okay, let's look at the retreat. Well, how much would that cost? How much would you be charging? And then actually that makes so much sense because you put everything in that weekend, you drive the highest paid ticket, clients that you have towards that weekend. And then when you put it all together, you're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Right. So I think that one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't know is that when you put numbers in a spreadsheet, even though you're kind of a little bit like scared, do it. Because sometimes you're like, oh, what I was thinking that would really make me a lot of money is not going to make me a lot of money. Or the things that I think that are super easy and I didn't know that they're going to make me a lot of money. I'm like, oh, I can do that. So kind of like, don't feel afraid to just kind of build it out month by month, line by line, saying, hey, I want to do this. How much money do you think you're gonna make? How much will it cost you? And then I like to do at the very end of it. This is like a very simple spreadsheet. Is saying how much like effort does it take? Because let's say like you're gonna do shirts, right? And you're going to set up an e-commerce site with some shirts and stuff like that. The setup time might be like a month to set it up, and then it's kind of like, whoever wants to buy these shirts, you can, and it's pretty something that can be just done in the background. Oh, interesting. And that effort is at like 5% of my whole year. Whoa, interesting. And that could bring in this amount. Then you can make better business decisions by just having that kind of the bumpers or the direction that you need to have for each month, and be able to really make your goals more concrete. So it's not like, oh my gosh, numbers are horrible. It's like, no, numbers are great. I know it's really hard to do that, but as you build it out, you will have more awareness, and that awareness allows you to have better business decisions. So think about it that way instead of saying, oh my gosh, I need to like know my numbers and I'm freaking out. Just know, hey, do you want to make better decisions? And also, Daphne, you brought up like good clients versus bad clients, right? Seeing like, okay, this one bad client is only bringing me this much. How much effort is it? Whole heck of a lot. Might as well say thank you, but no thank you, and really focus on those clients that are really beneficial for you and make you a whole heck of a lot of money. And they're easy to work with, right? So that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah. We have to remember why we're being an entrepreneur in the first place, don't we? We're doing it for making a good living, hopefully, not just a scratchy living. And we're doing it to give ourselves the freedom. And those are the 2 big ones for me. To serve, obviously, because that kind of comes naturally. That's a bit intrinsic for me because that's really why I do what I do. But for me personally, the selfish part of it is so that I can make some money and so that I can have the freedom and get the satisfaction of serving. So I always, in the early days, it's not so easy because in the early days, I think you said in the notes about this session, Daphne, you do tend to plow everything back in to the business to make the business work. But what you don't want to do is get caught up in that process where everything's getting plowed back in and you're on, starvation rations, so to speak, and you're not getting some time off and you're not getting what you need or what you hoped for out of the business. So putting that up the list of priorities and paying yourself first, always, and giving yourself some time, regularly throughout the year so that you can take time off. And even if it's just weekend trips, a weekend retreat with somebody or something like that, so that you feel like you're doing that because you're actually in this business and it allows you to have that weekend and that money to do that. You're not going to get burnt out that way. But if you plow everything back in, you're going to burn out really quickly. And that's not what you're in the business for. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And this is precisely what our mastermind is all about. So guys, please join us. We'll be here again next week, same time, same place. Sylvia, Suzanne, any last words?
Just have a great day. Relax, give yourself the day off.
I gave myself this weekend in honor of you, Suzanne, but no, really this weekend I knew that this was going to happen in my house, and did little self-care pieces. Like I just got my nails done. So cute.
Very
Black.
nice.
black tips for Halloween. So it's like lifted my spirits. I love getting my nails done. And then it took the dogs out for a walk every single day on Saturday and Sunday. I usually don't, on Monday through Friday. Connected with my daughter, went out to lunch with her on Sunday because she's like, let's go shopping. I'm like, great. And then really put down my phone and have her put down her phone. Right. And so those micro moments and micro things that we can do as entrepreneurs that might be kind of silly, let's say, are not. And it's not like, let's like, you know, take a week off, but we could take 15 minutes off out in nature. So anyways, that's my ending pieces.
Awesome. And every entrepreneur, I want to just encourage you to love saving just as much as you love spending. Sometimes in the beginning, it does help to just save a little bit more so that you can spend on the things that you really want to. So if you love both equally as much, you know, you're on a winning streak. And that's that for me for this week. Thank you so much for being part of us. Again, please do come and communicate with us. Connect with us. We'd love to hear from you and invite you into our mastermind. See you guys next week. Same time, same place. Bye.